Hello. Well, I just got the news that Shamima Begum is having her British nationality confiscated. And a lot of people have been whooping it up on the comments section of my Last But One video, which you all have every right to do, by the way. But don't get too previous about it, because Begum is really, she's a distraction. She's one girl. We don't know what she did in Syria, but it's quite possible she didn't do very much except walk past the severed heads. There are people living in parts of England right now who have far worse thoughts in their heads. I'm quite sure of it. And nobody's talking about them. I was working in a local radio of a provincial town in the 90s. And I was interviewing some Muslim women, young women. They were in high school, actually. When I went to visit them, there were, I don't know what, about 8 of them, I suppose, and 2 of them were quite well wrapped up, and this was in the 90s. That wasn't so fashionable at the time. One of them was very wrapped up. You could see her face, but just about, only just. And she was, of course, the most strident of all of them in the way she was talking about British society. And there was one girl there who had a headscarf on, but it was sort of loose and you could see a little of her hair and everything. And she seemed to me to be the most sensible one. But she was very tentative about what she was saying. You could see that. And every time she made some sort of qualifying remark, all the other girls turned on her like tigresses. They were relatively well-mannered because I was there and I was recording them. But you could feel the threat. And the one that was all wrapped up was getting very worked up about the fact that British people didn't celebrate Eid after Ramadan, and they didn't dress in the correct festive clothes. I'm not kidding you, this is what she said. And that other girl, the loose headscarf one, said, but it's not their holiday. Would we expect to do the same for Christmas if they were living in Pakistan? And the others just turned on her. And when I went back to my producer with an armful of tapes and I said, I noticed that the more covered up they were, the more intolerant they were. He said, oh, you can't say that on the radio. And I said, why ever not? God, I can be naive. Why ever not, did I say? And he said, well, it sounds racist, doesn't it? And I said, it's got nothing to do with race. It's to do with their religious convictions. No. He wouldn't let me put that on. So the whole thing got dumped, really. Now, those young women will be married women now. They'll have God knows how many children between them. And they will be bringing up their children in the same way as Shamima Begum's parents brought her up and turned her into this automaton. Because if there's one thing I noticed about that girl when she was having her interview, she wasn't acting like a human being. All the natural, I mean, for God's sake, I cried when my dog died for weeks. I once said to somebody, a friend of a friend, her child died after a few months of illness, and I think the little boy was about 3 or 4 years old, and the devastation on that woman's face, the devastation I felt when I went round to visit, and it was terrible. And Shamima Begum was talking about 2 babies that had died, just like she was talking about, I don't know what, a dinner service that she'd dropped. This isn't normal. This isn't natural. This isn't even human. Now, I was interested particularly in this because I have studied the Bible. I do know, I'm no expert on the Bible, but I do know a lot of Bible stories. And one of them is the story of Abraham sacrificing his son, Isaac, or rather almost sacrificing him when God said, don't do it. And the Arabs have it that it was his son Ishmael was the one that nearly got sacrificed, but then that's the Quran, isn't it? The point about it was that the Israelites, that story, when they wrote that story, they were surrounded by people who were sacrificing their children to their god Baal. This was a common, especially the firstborn son, was generally sacrificed to Baal. And the Israelites were horrified by this, and that story, I'm sure, about Abraham and Isaac was made up as an illustration. Don't follow that practice. The Muslims are still doing it. That's all that's going on. In order to have your child die, 2 children, and then to be able to talk about it in that dead, blank, matter-of-fact way, you have to be able to turn your mind off. You have to be able to turn your soul off, haven't you? She has no soul. I said she had no inner life in my last video. Yeah, she had no soul. Sorry about all the drinking. I had some Marks and Spencer's fried chicken. It was delicious, but it made me really thirsty. So, that's what we've got to think about. Not Shamima Begum, but all the other Shamima Begums that are right here in this country with their souls turned off because whatever Allah says they have to do, they're prepared to do it. It's a big problem. I'm not saying all Muslims are like that, by the way. I keep on having to say that. There are sects of Islam which are conducive to that sort of mindset, but there are other sects that are not, that are what we would term civilized, that are not assimilated, but integrated into British society. The Ismailis, the Ahmadis. But there is a substantial community of people who are neither assimilated nor integrated. And as I said before, they have the mindset of the parents of Shamima Begum. They created that daughter, and there are many others who have created daughters just the same, and sons too, and under the noses of our education authorities and social services, and radio stations, because the fact that I was not allowed to make a fuss about this, I knew there was something very, very wrong, but there was no way I could get it out. And I was stopped from doing so by... my producer wasn't part of a conspiracy. He was just part of an atmosphere. Does anyone know the word zeitgeist? It was just the spirit of the age, and maybe we're waking up from that now. Anyway, yeah, it's nice that Begum is getting something of her just desserts. I was told that she had, as far as I read, she had only British citizenship, in which case that couldn't be taken from her. But apparently, since it can be taken from her, that means that she may have Bangladeshi citizenship as well, which is good. I'm relieved about that. But she can appeal, you know. The story isn't finished yet. So let's not be, as I say, let's not be too previous about it. All right. Well, that's my take on the Begum affair. Thanks for listening. Please like and subscribe, and if you wish to donate, click the subscribe star link where you can make a one-off payment or set up a regular contribution, or I have a PayPal account at grannyopteryx@gmail.com. Till next time.